Hey family, welcome to Vlogmas day 12, I think. Anyway, it's whatever day is, it's all good. I wanted to do a little reflection on doing podcasts. I recently did a podcast. Actually, I've been interviewed several different times over the last couple of years, and more recently, a lot more. And it's been triggering some things in me, and one of which is just like, I think telling my story, you know, and I think I mentioned this in another video, but like just remembering that those times, like people have to understand that I spent many years, you know, maybe almost 20 years clinically depressed and just had given up on life. And I went back to some of my journals back then because I used to journal every now and then, and I would do it regularly, and then I would stop and I'd do it regularly. But anyways, going back and look at some of the journals because they were online journals, so the stuff is still online for me to go back and look at. Just remembering and recalling the mental and emotional state that I was in. Like I really was down in the dumps and really had all but given up on life. And so I think doing these interviews and podcasts, it always trigger like me going back and have to remember that time when I really just kind of did not want to live. And so, but I think what it's starting to do now more than ever, and I think I'm able to understand, is that it's helping me to appreciate where I am now. Like, wow, I've come a long ways, but more importantly, how I still could be there, you know, or I could be gone. And so it's always humbling to me to kind of tell the story and for people to hear it and want to dig in and ask me all the different questions about the story and so for me to kind of start to reveal some of the details that, you know, I don't really even think about, you know, so, you know, like just, like, what was it like going from 2 minutes to 16 miles, going 16 miles per hour, going to a 50-mile ultramarathon? Yeah, like that was a step-by-step journey, and it wasn't a journey where I was successful the whole time. I mean, there's times when I didn't do anything for weeks or maybe a good month. I just think for me, once I started to make a little bit of headway and I benefited from it, my body felt so incredible. I would easily feel, I would easily feel like if I didn't exercise for like a couple of days, I would feel it. My body was like, what's going on, girlfriend? What are we doing? Or if I would eat things that, you know, that I wasn't really traditionally eating, my body's like, oh, so we doing this now? My body respond really super quickly, and it would let me know, like, what's going on, you know? And so I think that always motivated and inspired me to go back to doing what it is I was doing. I think for me, when I think about the 2 minutes to the 50-mile ultramarathon, I try to recall, like, what was it that made me keep going? I would say a couple things, you know. First of all, as I always say, like the guy telling me good job on that first day was one of the things. But secondly, I tell people there was this woman who, when I did my first 10K, she says, well, if you did 5K, you knew you could do a 10K. And then she goes, do a 10K, you can do a half marathon. Do a half marathon, you can do a marathon. And I don't know why she was talking to me about that, but something about what she said stuck with me. And I was like, and I think the reason why it stuck with me was because you got to understand, like in the beginning of my journey, like all I could do was 2 minutes, right? And then I would do 4 minutes, right? And then I would do 8 minutes. Like I was trying to double. I was always like trying to double things, 8 minutes to 16 minutes. And so I kind of had a history of setting out a goal. A goal was, okay, I'll do 10 minutes, all right? And then let's see if we can get up to 20. You know, I'd do 10 minutes until I was really good at it. It was like old hat, it's like so easy, super easy. And then I would try to double it. And I don't know what that was in me that did that prior to her saying that to me, but it was something that I did and I was successful at. So when she mentioned it, it clicked for me. And so I think for me, I remember when I did my marathon, I said, I found out about doing ultra marathons right before I did my first marathon. And I remember saying to myself, now, if I said, if I feel good at the end of this marathon, then I will consider doing an ultra marathon, right? Because again, you know, if I did a marathon, I could do an ultra marathon. So I said to myself, we'll see. I was not making no commitment to an ultra marathon because it was something I had never heard of in the first place anyway. So if I didn't do it, it was going to be okay. But I remember when I finished, I remember running my marathon and taking it easy, just enjoying the marathon, right? And my thing was, I wasn't even focused on ultramarathon at the time because I said to myself, I don't even know if I'm gonna do that, or I probably won't even do that. But also for me, what I love about me is that I needed to do the marathon first, right? Like, let me get through this first. Like, why am I trying to plan other stuff when I ain't even done the marathon first? So I really enjoyed that I took the space and time to enjoy just the marathon. And then I remember when I got through running the marathon, I thought to myself, oh, I could go run another marathon. And that's when I knew I would do an ultra marathon. But I waited for that feeling to come. I didn't try to predict it. I didn't try to make it happen. It was like, that's what I was going to do. But so I feel like what doing these interviews have done and being on these podcasts has really triggered me to kind of really understand my journey. But more importantly, God, for me to realize I'd never really celebrated my victories. I never celebrated not one victory. I have the medals, and maybe I'll flash on the screen my little medal board. But I never, you know, I think the podcast has triggered in me, like, you've got to start celebrating your victories. And what the podcast has also enlightened me to is that the same way you did not celebrate your, you know, long distance events is the same way you're doing your business. You're not celebrating the fact that you created a product. You're not celebrating the fact that you've been able to find a manufacturer. You're not celebrating the fact that, you know, your product is in an REI store. You're not celebrating the fact that you sold a whole bunch here and there and everywhere. You're not what is triggering me is like this kind of habit, tradition of not celebrating myself is something I really got to tend to. And because I think it's going to be the thing that's really going to keep me motivated and keep me energized when things are struggling. And so I love how every time I kind of have these spells where I'm doing a lot of interviews and stuff like that, and it triggers things in me. And so I thought I would talk a little bit about what was triggering me now when I do a lot of interviews and podcasts. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed what I had to share. In the meantime, take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace and love now.